One Monday morning at Blue Ridge Bank in downtown Atlanta, the newly appointed branch manager, Miss Susan Marley, was both excited and nervous. It was her second week on the job, and she was eager to prove she deserved the prestigious position. She believed today would be her moment to shine. The bank hummed with its usual morning activity. Customers lined up at the counters, tellers processed transactions, and the faint sound of keyboards filled the air. Among the crowd, a middle-aged black man walked in. He was dressed casually in a simple button-up shirt and jeans, carrying a leather briefcase in one hand. The man approached the counter where Susan happened to be standing. His stride was confident, yet unassuming. "Good morning," he said with a polite smile. "I'd like to deposit a large sum of money into my account." Susan gave him a quick once-over. Her smile faltered slightly as she noticed his simple attire. "We'll need to verify your account first," she replied, her tone clipped. "Of course," the man said, handing over a slip of paper with his account details. Susan glanced at her screen and her eyes widened. She leaned closer to the monitor, her disbelief evident. "Are you sure these details are correct?" she asked, lowering her voice. "Yes, they are," he replied calmly. "You'll also need to prepare for the deposit. It's a transfer of $200 million. Susan froze, the words hanging in the air like an electric charge. After a moment she leaned back, crossed her arms, and gave him a skeptical look. "Listen, sir," she said sharply. "We don't tolerate scams here. If this is some kind of joke, I suggest you leave before I call security." The man's expression didn't change. "This is not a joke," he said evenly. "Maybe you'd like to see my business card." He reached into his briefcase, but Susan stepped back. "No need," she snapped. "Scammers always carry fake business cards. You can't fool me. I know how these things work." By now the exchange had drawn attention. Whispers rippled through the room as customers turned to watch. "I'm not scamming you," the man said, his voice firm but calm. "You're making a mistake." Susan pointed a finger at him, her voice rising. "People like you always try to game the system. You think you can just walk in here and claim to have millions. Get out." The room went silent. Unbeknownst to Susan, a tall man in a sharp navy suit had entered the bank moments earlier. He had been standing nearby, quietly observing the confrontation. Stepping forward, he cleared his throat, commanding attention. "What's going on here?" he asked. Susan turned to him, her face flushing. "Mr. Taylor," she began, addressing the bank's regional manager. "This man claims he wants to deposit $200 million. I was just about to call security." Mr. Taylor raised an eyebrow. "And why would you do that?" "Because he's obviously lying," Susan exclaimed. "Look at him." Mr. Taylor turned to the man and a look of recognition crossed his face. His demeanor instantly shifted to one of warmth and respect. "Mr. Daniels," he said, extending his hand, "it's been a while. Good to see you." "Taylor," the man replied with a small smile, shaking his hand. Susan blinked in confusion. "You know him?" "Of course I do," Mr. Taylor said, his tone growing sharp. He turned to address the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen, meet Mr. James Daniels, the owner of Daniels Innovations and our bank's largest investor." Gasps echoed through the room. Susan's face turned ashen. But, she stammered, her voice barely audible. Mr. Taylor didn't let her finish. "Mr. Daniels isn't just a client," he continued. "His investments are the reason this bank survived the last financial crisis. Without him, we wouldn't even be here today." Susan's mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. Mr. Daniels remained composed. "I was hoping to keep this visit low-key," he said, glancing at Susan, "but it seems that's no longer possible." Mr. Taylor turned back to Susan, his expression steely. "You've been here for barely 2 weeks and this is how you treat our clients." I didn't know," Susan stuttered. "He didn't look the part." "Didn't look the part." Mr. Taylor's voice was ice cold. "And what exactly does someone with $200 million look like?" Susan had no answer. Taking a deep breath, Mr. Taylor addressed the room. "At Blue Ridge Bank, we pride ourselves on treating every client with respect, no matter who they are or how they dress. This incident is a disgrace." He turned back to Susan. "You're fired, effective immediately. Clear out your desk." Tears welled up in Susan's eyes as she walked away, her humiliation evident. The room erupted into applause, customers nodding their approval. Mr. Daniels turned to Mr. Taylor. "I appreciate how you handled that," he said. "Now, shall we move forward with the deposit?" "Of course," Mr. Taylor replied, personally escorting Mr. Daniels to a private office. The remaining customers couldn't stop talking about the incident. The lesson was clear: never judge a book by its cover. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell for more fascinating stories. Have a great day.